episode of what will most likely be called the In Her Skein Knitting Podcast. That's my username both on Instagram and on Ravelry. That's where you can find me. Although I'm not super active on either of those platforms. But yeah, my name is Marie-Ève and I am passionate about knitting, obviously, if I'm making this podcast. But I also have a lot of other hobbies, including sewing, crocheting. I do a bit of punch needling. Spinning is new also for me, and other non-yarn related things. But I think that this will mostly be a knitting podcast. I do have one crochet project today, but that's quite rare actually. So yeah, it will most likely be focused on knitting. So why the podcast? There's a few reasons, but mostly I really like to watch them. I watch a lot of them while knitting, and I guess I just wanted to join in on the fun. I recently moved to Italy from Canada, and for now I still don't have a job, and so I spend my days alone knitting here, which I'm not complaining about, but it can be a little bit isolating. I think that a lot of people can relate to that. Knitting can be an isolating hobby. But yeah, so I just wanted to come on here and share with everyone. And also, it's kind of like a special moment in my life, I would say. Like, I just moved here, and I'm really just enjoying the country, the food, the culture. And I've been taking little clips here and there of what I've been up to, and so I thought that I would also share this with you guys, probably at the end of the video. So yeah, enough about me, although I'm sure I'll slip some other informations here and there about me as we go. But yeah, let's talk about knitting. So I'll start with what I'm wearing. And I kind of honestly hesitated to present this project as the first project that I'll be talking about, just because it's sort of like a Frankenstein project where I took two different patterns and kind of mashed them together to make this FO. So I hesitated just because it might be a bit complicated to explain for my first time, but also this is what I do. Often I'll do this, like I'll have a yarn that I'm very inspired to make, like a certain thing that I have in my head, certain vision that I have. And so I just like kind of run with it. And if my gauge doesn't match the pattern, I figure it out. And if there's a design element that I really love in the pattern, but I don't quite like the rest, then I'll usually just like change that and plug and play essentially with different patterns. So this is a mashup between two patterns. I mean, the top is very simple, as you see. It's just like a circular yoke pattern that I had already in my Ravelry library. It's the Mimi sweater by Marie-Christine Lévesque. I think Tricot Design MCL is her designer name. And that's a pattern that has like a lace frill here across the chest. I already had it, so I just used it to do the yoke portion basically. But what I really wanted is a Tulip sweater by Melody Hoffman. And I have one of those already, but I made it a while back now in Plotulopi, and I find it much too scratchy for me. I actually like rustic yarns, but that one, I think the Icelandic wool is just not for me. It's too prickly. So I wanted to make another one, but the other issue with that sweater, it's a raglan sweater, and I don't love like the neckline portion and how it fits. I think this might be an unpopular opinion, but I realized that I just don't like raglans and how they fit me. Also kind of sometimes create like a squared neckline, which I'm not a fan of. So I just decided to go with the yoke section of the mimi, omitting the frill, and just adding at the bottom the scalloped hem of the Tulip pullover that I really like. So yeah, that's essentially what I did. And the yarn that I use is the Vovo by Rosa Pomal. It's a yarn brand that I've been really curious about trying for a long time now, and I don't know, I never came across it, I guess, in yarn stores. So, but this summer, me and my boyfriend, we went on a little, or not a little, a long road trip across Austria, a bit of Slovakia, and then Slovenia. And while we were in Slovakia, in the capital, Bratislava, we stopped at this super nice yarn store that I can't pronounce the name of. I'll put it here. But yeah, they were carrying a lot of the Rosa Pomal yarns. So I decided to stock up a little bit. So this is the Vovo. It's a 100% wool. I think they say it's 100% fine Portuguese wool. And most of this wool comes from this specific sheep or breed of sheep that I don't remember the name of. I will write it here. But yeah, it's surprisingly, for me, very soft. Like it's rustic, but I can wear it next to skin, no issues. And I really love it. It's like super bouncy, very nice. I really loved working with it. And as you can see, this is my little leftover. I don't know what I was thinking of, because this is like I'm not sure if it's a DK weight or a bit heavier than this, but I think that for my size, I should have bought 7 balls of this yarn, but I only bought 6. And so the finished garment is a bit too cropped for my liking. I'll insert a little video of me wearing it, but I'm wearing it with my highest waisted pants that I own, and it's still too cropped. Like if I'm just standing up, it's fine, but as soon as I lift my arms, you can see my stomach. It's not really the look that I was going for. So this is what I have left. I was kind of playing yarn chicken, but I could have gone a little bit longer before doing the ribbing. And so I think that I will go back and use everything that I have left. I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking that I can probably get another, like, at least 3 centimeters of length on the body with this. I'm hoping. I think that would help a little bit. But yeah, I'm not sure. But I think that I will do a bit of sweater surgery and basically like pass like a lifelines, 2 lifelines before the ribbing, because I don't want to undo the ribbing. I could undo it, but feeling kind of lazy. Although I don't know if sweater surgery is a lazy friendly option. It might be more complicated. I've never done it before, but yeah, maybe I'll attempt that, or I'll undo knit with this ball and then redo the ribbing. So yeah, to be determined what happened with this one. And then the worst case scenario, if it's still too short, I'll just order online another ball of this yarn. So I think I said everything that I had to say about this one. Can pass to the second FO. It's the Sophie Shawl. And this is a pattern that I don't know, when I first saw like the Sophie scarf and the Sophie shawl, it was super popular super quickly, and I told myself like, oh, I don't know if I'll make this. Like, to me, it looked kind of boring, if I'm honest. But then I bought this wool, and I'll go a bit more into what this is after. But I bought this, and I wasn't really sure what to make with it, so I thought, why not just try the Sophie Shawl. Basically, I had almost enough to make the smallest size, but since it's like the construction, I mean, I'm sure I don't need to explain this, but it's like you increase, and then at the halfway mark you start to decrease on the other side. And so I decided to just like I had 2 balls, use the first ball on the one half and then switch for the other one to really maximize the yarn usage. I thought that was a good project for that. But yeah, I'm not sure like how well this fits in my wardrobe. I usually prefer like a bigger shawl or scarf if I'm going to wear one. But I think it's very cute. I like it. It's nice. Although it's like the exact same color as my hair, so it just kind of blends in, but whatever. But yeah, I'm still not sure like how much use I'll get out of this. But I'm telling myself that worst case scenario, if I don't wear it at all, I'll just frog it and use the yarn for something else. But yeah, speaking of yarn, this is a yarn that I bought when we were in Austria. We stopped in like a town on the way to somewhere else, so I didn't really like search for yarn stores in that specific place. And we didn't have a lot of time to visit, so because I think we had to go to our next Airbnb to check in. Anyways, we were kind of in a rush and we wanted to go explore the city. And so we were kind of like walking just super fast, like climbing this hill. And then at some point I just look up and I like gasped because obviously I saw some nice skeins of yarn on a nice little display outside. And then so I look at my boyfriend, he's like, yeah, go. I was like, okay, I go really fast. And at that point I had already shopped for some yarn in the country, so I was, fine, but I didn't find Austrian wool. And so that was kind of my goal, walking in that store to find something. So I talked quickly with the shop owner and she directed me to this brand that I'm not gonna try to pronounce because my German is horrible. But yeah, it's alpaca from Austria. And yeah, so I got 2 balls of this. I'm really liking brown these days. Yeah, so I was attracted, I guess, to this color. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming it's a natural colorway. You can see like poking through some little like whiter strands, maybe a bit of gray and brown. So I think it's a natural color, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so I got 2 balls of this, thinking I'm gonna make an accessory of some sort. And it's very soft, so I wanted something close to my neck. And so that's why I chose this project. But yeah, jury's still out to see if I will wear it or not. Let's see. Yeah, and then the next finished object that I have is actually a half object. I have 1 sock here, and the other one is in the making. It's almost done actually. I think I have like 1 or 2 repeats done before I can do the toe. And this again is some Rosa Pavard yarn. It's the Mondim, which is a natural sock yarn, so it's not superwash, there's no nylon. So I was very curious to try it out. I've been kind of trying different yarns for socks. I'm very interested in non-superwash wools. I would say that most of my garments I already make. I've made for a long time with non-superwash wool. But for socks, I still have some in stash that, you know, have nylon or superwash. But I'm very interested in testing out different bases of yarn for socks. So I got one ball of this one. This is wound up by hand because the rest of the ball was kind of getting sad and difficult to work with, so I just wound it up by hand. But yeah, basically, well, I'll finish talking about what this yarn is maybe first. This is, I'm not sure if it's the exact same as the Vovo that I use for the sweater. So this is a heavier weight. This is fingering, or even light fingering maybe, but it's 100% Portuguese wool as well. So I'm wondering if it's the same base. It does feel very similar. But yeah, very soft. I'm not sure how sturdy it will be though. I'll touch on that when I show you the sock. This is the color, I think 302. It's like a nice, like rich brick red that I really like. But yeah, so these are the Carta Socks by New York Year is her designer name. I'm not sure what is her actual name, sorry for that. But yeah, I had saved this pattern in my Ravelry favorites a while back now, and she made hers in like very similar colors. So when I bought this, I was like, oh, I'll probably make these. I did, so basically it's like a kind of a ribbed sock. You can see that the one that I have in progress that is not blocked is very cinched like this. But yeah, so it's very enjoyable to knit. The only modification that I made is like the spacing of the, like each column. Basically in the pattern for my size, which I'm making the 64 stitch sock, which is always the one that I do. In the pattern, she was basically like, let's say you start here, you have 3, I think, purl stitches between each column, and then essentially like your last column had in the pattern, I think 7. So everywhere around between your columns you have 3 purl stitches, except in the last one you had 7. And so that kind of bothered me. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm really trying hard to not be too intense basically, but this, I don't know, it just bothered me. So what I did is distribute like on either sides. Here I have 5 and 5 instead of 3 and 7 purl stitches. So that's the only modification that I did. The rest was very easy to follow the pattern. Yeah, I don't think I have much else to say about this. And yeah, I'm almost done with the second one. Oh yeah, no, the other thing that I have to say is, again, regarding the yarn. Since there's no nylon, I'm afraid that they will pierce. I've been reading reviews about this yarn online, and other podcasters talk about it. Sometimes some people have great experiences with it, some don't. So I'm curious to see how they will wear and if they will pierce or not the first time that I wear them in shoes. But I have so many socks right now that even if one pair pierces, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny also because, I don't know if you can see, but like the gauge also is not super tight. I did these on 2.5 millimeter needles. I always knit my socks, like fingering weight socks, on 2.5 millimeter circular needles. But I think I should buy a 2.25 millimeter because for a yarn like this, I think that the gauge needs to be much tighter in order for them to last longer. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that I think it's funny that these are named the Carta Socks. In Italian, it means paper. So I feel like these are my paper socks that will probably pierce as soon as I put them on my feet, but let's see. All right, if we're moving on to my other whips, I have another pair of socks here. So basically, again, while we were in that same yarn shop in Bratislava, I bought the 52 Weeks of Socks, volume 2 book. I never bought the first edition. I was kind of, I don't know, there wasn't enough patterns in the book that I loved to justify buying the book, so I didn't buy it, even though I kind of just wanted it because it's beautiful, and I mean there's so many patterns inside. So anyways, I invested in this one because there was, I think, more than half of the patterns that I would like to knit. Will I ever knit all of these? Unlikely, but it's a really nice book to have. But yeah, the one that really stood out to me is this one. Try to show it without showing the whole pattern. But these are the, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I think it's the Boixac Socks. But yeah, it's like these little flowers in the middle with some like cabling on the side that I thought was really nice. And she made the sample in I think it's woolly mammoth yarn, so like a pretty rustic sock yarn. And I had this yarn here. It's, I don't know if the, yeah, no, the color doesn't show up well on camera. It's more pink. Here it shows up kind of like beigey gray, but it's like a pink. I don't know how to describe it, but it's from Les Brebis du Beau Rivage. I still have a lot of yarn in my stash from Canada, and this is one of them. So yeah, it's this farm, they raise East Frisian sheep, and they make different yarn bases from this, and also I think they have alpaca, or they use like sometimes alpaca fibers to mix in these yarns to make it a bit more softer. This is quite rustic, but I think it's, I don't know if I could like wear it on my neck like in a garment. I'm not sure, but I tried on my sock whip that I'll show you in a second, and it's super comfy. Like it's not too prickly. So yeah, I think I like East Frisian. I think this is also mixed with some Jacob that gives it the like grayish color. But yeah, and it also, yeah, so it's 70% wool, which I think is East Frisian and Jacob, and 30% nylon. So these will be like hard wearing socks, I'm assuming, or I'm hoping. Yeah, this is the color Estrus. They kind of name the colors, I think, around different farm or sheep related words. So in this case, a reproduction related word. But yeah, so I had two of these. They're 56 grams each with 198 meters. So it's like a pretty thick fingering weight yarn. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the yarn. So now I will show you the sock. So I think I'm like almost at the point where I can start increasing for the gusset. It's super cute. It's a lot of, it hurts my hands, I will say. between these cables and the baubles here, it's quite rough on the hands. So I'm making only like a little section at a time, and they will be done when they'll be done. I'm not in urgent need of socks, so it's all good. But yeah, so I'm almost at the gusset, and then I think there's probably a few more motifs to go for these socks to be done. So yeah, this is my current, or my second sock whip. Now, moving on to a sweater whip. So I guess this is the second one in my first episode where I'll be talking about projects that I've seen that are super popular, that people make all the time. People make multiple of these, but I was never really attracted to them. The first was the Sophie Shawl / scarf. And the second one is the Ranunculus. I don't know why I was never really attracted that much to the pattern. But yeah, I think I was seeing it around a lot lately in podcasts, on Instagram, and I kind of had an itch to cast this on. And I did have some yarn in my stash to make it, which is something that I'm trying really hard to do these days, especially since I don't have a job right now. I'm trying to be very responsible and knit only or almost only from stash. I do make a few exceptions, like if I have, I don't know, like a fingering weight yarn that I want to pair with a mohair and I don't have the mohair to make a sweater, I'll buy the mohair, but I'm trying to use what I have. And speaking of what I have, this is the Nueva by Fibre Carpe Diem, also something that I had from Canada. So it's this one. I think that probably at some point the yarn shop that carries this yarn, which is a Pure Laine, they probably had like a knit along to make the Ranunculus with this yarn, because I was looking on Ravelry and there's a lot of projects with it. But yeah, it was super useful to see what other people did, because I mean, if you're familiar, you probably are, with the Ranunculus. I actually don't remember the gauge, but it's knit on big needles. I think it's on 6mm needles, and I was kind of scared that with this yarn it wouldn't be thick enough to knit it on 6mm needles. So I kind of looked through the projects and people did use 6mm needles, but I think that I'm a pretty loose knitter, and so I often have to go down a needle size to get like a fabric that makes sense. So that's what I did. I'm knitting this on, I think, yeah, 5.5mm needles to get something that is not too see-through. I mean, it still is, but like it's gonna be wearable. So yeah, because this yarn is they say that it's a DK, but in terms of like weight and meterage, it's 100 grams, 400 meters, so more like a fingering weight. But since it's so fluffy, like the fibers really, you know, take space, I guess, to fill in the holes. So I think that's why they classify it as a DK weight. But yeah, so I did make a few modifications for this. Essentially, I didn't want all the positive ease that is recommended for this pattern. I don't remember exactly how much ease there is. I took some notes. I don't know if I wrote it down. No. But I think it's like over 10 inches of positive ease recommended. And I didn't want that. I wanted something still with ease, but like not as much. And so since I went down in needle size, I think my gauge is a bit tighter, and yeah, I think I'm doing the size that I normally should be doing, but it's giving me less ease for two reasons. One is that my gauge is tighter. The second one is that I distributed the sleeves differently for the body, and did I say the sleeves? I distributed the stitches differently for the body and the sleeves. I think in the pattern, for my liking, it's like too much ease on the body, and then it's like too tight on the arms. So basically I just redistributed the stitches so that I have, I think now like 60% of my stitches in the body and 40% in the arm, so 20% each arm. And I think that when I calculated, it was more like closer to 70% for my size in the body and 30, so 15% for each sleeves, which was not really what I was going for. So those are the only modifications that I made. Other than that, I think I didn't really have any issues. I think that the pattern is not like super clear, to be honest. Like this little motif here, I had to watch the video to see exactly what she meant. But yeah, the rest was fairly simple. But yeah, now I understand why people make multiples of this pattern. It's very addictive. I think that like this, maybe up until like here, I knit in 2 sittings, like a few hours each. It went by very fast. Yeah, and now I'm kind of like losing steam because it's just stocking it in the round, which I usually like, I enjoy, but I don't know, my brain I think is craving something a bit more like complicated to work on these days, so I just kind of set this one aside, and I'll get to it when I get to it. And yeah, sometimes like when knits go by too fast, I'm like, whoa, like we need to slow down, like I want to enjoy this for as long as I can. I know some people, they try to just like knit things super fast, like you see YouTube videos like, I knit this sweater in 1 week, and I'm like, no, I want to take my time. So yeah, I'm like putting it aside because it's a bit boring right now, and also because I just want to enjoy it. So yeah, and the other thing that I'm working on right now that is a bit more complicated, that is keeping my mind I think more busy, active, is a crochet project. I have this in a basket. It's gonna fall. But essentially, I think sometime in the spring, I probably saw like a crochet garment online somewhere, either from like a store or on Instagram, someone made something, and it sparked something in me, I guess. And so I went through all of my leftover yarns and found some like color combinations that I like, and just started to make these granny squares. I have done a bit of crochet in the past, but never, I think when I started knitting, I kind of like dabbled also a little bit in crochet, and then soon found out that knitting was, I liked it much better, and so I just focused more on knitting. But yeah, I don't know, I had like this craving in the spring for a crochet project, but I had never made a granny square before, so I just went on YouTube and I found this tutorial by, I don't remember who, but I'll put the link down below if you're curious, to make these little flower, I think they're called daisy granny squares. But yeah, so that's where I learned to make this, and I kind of just started making them, and I thought I will figure out later how I want to do this garment. So in my head I had like a cardigan in mind, but now I'm like hesitating just because I don't know like if this is really me, like is it my style? I don't know. I have to see, but now I think I've made enough squares that I can start assembling them into something. And so I think that I'll like lay them down on the floor, try to figure out how to put them together to make a cardigan, seam up like one panel, put it in front of me, and then decide if I really want to make a cardigan. Worst case scenario, I will just use them to make a blanket, because that doesn't have to go really on my body. Or I make a cardigan that I just wear at home. I don't know. Let's see. So yeah, I have, I think, 100 something of them. There's a lot of them. But yeah, I'm really excited to now put them together and see what happens. Yeah, they're all they're all different. I had a lot of like white, off-white, beige, like light beige yarns that I used to make the outside section. I don't know how to call it. So they're all relatively the same color on the outside, and then the flowers inside are all different. So yeah, I'm always looking for ways to use my scraps, so that was a fun way, I guess, to use them. And I thought that I would have not a hard time, but I thought I would not enjoy weaving in all the ends in the back of these squares, but it was actually quite meditative. So that wasn't too bad, but I ended up now with, I saved all the ends that I cut up, and I think I want to do something with them because it's a lot of yarn. I don't know, like I made a scrap project and now I think I have to make something else with this. I'm not sure what. I saw a video on Instagram that I'll try to link below if I can find it again. It was like someone who made a laptop sleeve. Basically, she sewed up like a pouch, and one of the layers is like a fabric stabilizer type of thing, like the type of fabric that people use to embroider that washes away with water. And so she made a pocket with that, and then she like quilted, I guess, like freehand quilted on her sewing machine little lines everywhere before she dissolved the film on top. And so she's left with like this fabric made of her scrap yarns to, I think she made a laptop pocket. So maybe I'll try my hand at doing something like that. Let's see. But yeah, that's it for this project. And for the whips, I guess I'll go quickly into some upcoming projects. I don't think I'll do really like an acquisition section because one, I'm trying to not buy too much yarn, and I don't know, I think I prefer to talk about like my inspirations, what I want to make next, what's going to be cast on next on my needles. So a few weeks ago now, I would say, I saw that what's her name? I think it's Sungi Knits on Instagram. She's the designer that made the, I don't remember the name, Dear Duomo sweater. And now she has another design that is currently being tested. It's called the Doppio Sweater. And when I first saw it, it's beautiful. Her sample is very beautiful. But when I saw it, I just thought, oh, it's another raglan sweater. And I mentioned before that I'm not a big fan of raglan sweaters. But then I think at some point she posted another picture showing how she was like doing her increases, and I noticed that it's not like a regular raglan. I think it's a compound raglan, I think they're called. and I've done one of those before, and it's one of my most worn sweaters. I think that the fit is better on me. So essentially, instead of like increasing at the same rate for the sleeves and the body, you increase at different rates. And I mean, depending on how it's written in the pattern, you'll get something that is more like this. Does like an S shape almost. And so the stitches are basically distributed not equally, which makes a nicer shape. It's not like a harsh line. And so when I saw that it was a compound raglan, I got really excited. And yeah, so I started going stash diving to see what I could use. I think that her sample is made with 2 different fingering weight yarns plus a suri, I think. And so it's quite like a big gauge. And the fun thing is that hers is marled. So she used 3 different colorways, I think from Explorer Knits. But yeah, so I went stash diving to see what I could use. And what I found is a lot of like lace weight yarns that I don't know what I was thinking when I bought these. I don't think I had a project in mind. But yeah, a lot of lace weight that I think I have enough meterage for to make a sweater. And if I pair them together, then I can get like a thick enough thread to get gauge in this sweater, which I actually don't know what is the gauge, but yeah, let's see. I think I saw that the pattern will come out at the beginning of November, so quite soon. And she already put the yardage info, or meterage info, in her bio in a Google Doc. So I was able to kind of see if I have enough of these yarns. So the first thing that I picked from my stash is this yarn that I bought last summer, like not the summer 2022. So I don't think I explained this properly at the beginning, but my boyfriend is Italian. We met in Montreal while he was working there for a few years. And then he got a job offer here at the end of last summer, and so he moved here in the new year. And yeah, I mean, when he had this job offer, we just decided that we were gonna do it. We were gonna move. It was a really good opportunity for him, and we were thinking of moving eventually. We just didn't know that there would be the opportunity to come this soon. And so anyways, that's besides the point. What I wanted to say is that in the summer 2022, before we knew that we were moving here, we visited for the first time together. I had been in Italy before, but this was my first time with him. We came to visit his family. And here we are, I think an hour and some minutes away from Venice by train, which is kind of crazy to say because like when I was growing up, like to me, Venice in my mind was like this magical place, right? Like my mom would talk to me about her trip to Venice and that there's no cars, like people use boats to get around, and I thought it was so cool. So anyways, I'm rambling. We went to Venice, and if you've been there, you probably know about this yarn shop, the Lela Bella Venezia, I think it's called. And so of course I had to go, but then I didn't really have any project in mind, and I got kind of overwhelmed and just bought like random things that I thought maybe I would make an accessory with, but I never ended up doing anything. So basically I had this cashmere lace weight yarn. It's 100% cashmere, 700 meters in 50 grams. So it's like a very tiny lace that I wound up by hand. Very painful, but I have a Swift and a winder. The winder, I'm not sure where it is. I think it's in one of the boxes that we shipped here when we moved, but I can't find it. So I had to do this by hand, but anyways. So I have this that I bought there, and this yarn, which is the Superior from Filatura di Crosa. So it's made in Italy. It's 70% cashmere, 25% silk, and 5% wool. It's probably the softest yarn that I've ever touched. It's very luxurious. I'm pretty sure I paid a lot for these too, which is kind of crazy considering that I didn't know what I was gonna make with them. But now I'm super happy to have found a project that they can be used in. So basically, I think that I will use one strand of this, one strand of this one, and then I went stash diving for other colors, and I think that this will be the color palette. I did do a little swatch that I unraveled because it was just swatching to know if the colors would look nice together. I think I took a photo, maybe a video, I'll put it here. But yeah, so one strand of this, one of this, and then I have this BFL lace weight. It's from Espace Tricot, but I think this was their yarn line some time ago, and now this has become Sonder yarn. So I think I bought this when they were like doing the switch from Espace Tricot to Sonder yarn, and so they were on sale, and I got two of these. It's the Luna base in the color Opera, and yeah, I bought two of this thinking that I would like find a mohair or a suri to hold it like double or triple to make a sweater, but that just never happened, so I'll use this. And I also have this leftover mohair from a sweater that I think would look nice with this. I don't think I have enough of this. I only have this much. And so I did order some drops kid silk to hopefully complement this. I hope it's gonna be the correct shade. I think I ordered the toffee. I was hesitating between toffee and caramel. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be fine. But since it's like an all over marled sweater, I think even if it's not like the perfect shade, it should be fine. So yeah, I think that this one will be cast on as soon as the pattern comes out. I'm quite excited for this one. Okay, and the last thing is 2 weeks ago now, I think, I went to Abilmente Vicenza. It's like a craft show / like hobby fair type of thing. It's like the closest thing to a yarn festival that was close to me. So I went, and there was some people selling yarn, and there was also a lot of workshops that were quite affordable. So I took the spinning workshop with a drop spindle, which was my first time spinning, and I made this thing, which is exciting. It's very, very thick and thin, and it's not really my colors, but that's what she had there. There's even some stellina. But yeah, I'm like super proud that I made this, and now I want to spin. So let's see, I have the drop spindle, so I'm probably gonna buy some fiber eventually and spin like that, but I can see maybe an e-spinner or a spinning wheel in my future someday. But yeah, so I made this. I don't know, I think I'm gonna use it. Some people say like, oh, I'm gonna keep my first skein of hand-spun yarn just for a souvenir forever. I don't want to knit with it. I want to knit this up like now. And I don't know what it's gonna become, but probably a little accessory of some sort. Maybe something that I won't wear because, again, these are not really my preferred colors, but I think they're super fun. I do have a hot water bottle that is in need of a new sweater because I ruined the one that came with it. So maybe I'll make something with this and like a leftover like white beige yarn from my this was in my basket with the crochet stuff that didn't get used. So maybe this will become a hot water bottle cover. Let's see. And then the other thing that I bought, I didn't buy a lot. There was not a lot of like how do I say, like hand-dyed yarns or stuff like that. There was only a few people selling yarn. There was some hand-dyed, but again, I just didn't have a project in mind, so I noted the people there to hopefully buy from them eventually. But yeah, I only left with this this tiny ball. It's sugar cashmere from Beta Knit. It's like the equivalent here, I think, of like Wool in the Gang and We Are Knitters. They have like the same like brand aesthetic, I would say. But yeah, this is 100% cashmere, only 45 meters in 25 grams. And so I bought this thinking that I can make a Sophie scarf. I have the shawl now, maybe a little scarf. And it's super, super soft, 100% cashmere. But basically I bought it because it was on sale. I think these, they sell them for 18 euro each, but they were on sale for 7. And unfortunately there was only this one in this color when I was there, so I bought one. But yeah, I think it's not quite the right yarn weight for the Sophie scarf, and it's only 45 meters. But I think that if I knit it at like a super big gauge, and so I'll have to obviously modify completely the pattern, but it's a pretty easy knit, so I think I can do it pretty confidently. But yeah, this will probably become a modified Sophie scarf. And that's it. I obviously have like many more ideas and plans for the future, but I'll stick to that for now. Other than that, I've been sewing some things. The last thing I made is this little project bag from a pattern that I think is the Laola mini pouch or something. Maybe it's the company is Laola Patterns. I'll write it because I don't remember fully. But if you signed up for their newsletter, they sent you this free pattern. So I made this one with some scraps that I had left in my stash. This is either a 100% linen or a linen cotton blend. Some little flower fabric and some cotton that I had left over from other projects. And I had this label that I think I bought to make or to put on my Oslo hat from Petite Knit that I have, but then I changed my mind. I don't know, I don't think it's really me. I don't know, so I just decided to use it for a project bag. It says, winter is coming, knit faster, be prepared with Petite Knit. So yeah, I made this. It was a quick sew, it was pretty enjoyable. The only modification that I made is that I added another line here of sewing to like encase the cord, and yeah, to make like a little ruffle at the top when you close it. But yeah, so my next sewing projects will probably be pants because I am in need of new pants. I don't know if I'll show them here once they're done. Let's see. And other than that, I've just been trying to enjoy fall as much as I can. The leaves are changing color here, and we have a few chestnut trees, so I've been going to pick up some chestnuts, which is fun. And there's also a lot of pomegranate trees around, so we took some, made juice last weekend, which is also fun. So just really enjoying the fall weather. And it's finally cold enough to wear sweaters here, so that makes me very happy to reconnect with all my sweaters, like long lost friends over the summer. But yeah, and I don't think I mentioned, but we're living here temporarily. It's a beautiful property, but we're just here temporarily. We were living here while we were looking for apartments, and we found one, and we're gonna be moving there in a month or two-ish. We don't know yet exactly when, but yeah, so we've been also slowly buying stuff for that, because obviously we sold all our furniture when we were in Canada, and so we need to rebuy everything, and we're looking mostly at used stuff. I like to, you know, buy things and make it new. So I've done also a little bit of, you know, sanding old furniture, which is also keeping me busy. Maybe I'll insert a bit of footage of that, but it's not done, so maybe eventually I'll show these pieces. So yeah, I hope that I didn't bore you. This is an hour-long episode for a first episode. But yeah, I guess I had a lot to say. I enjoyed sharing these things. I don't know at what frequency I'll be doing these episodes. I'm not a super fast knitter, so maybe once a month, once every 3 weeks, let's see. I'm not putting any pressure on myself. And yeah, I hope that you're also enjoying fall, and that you're knitting things that you are enjoying. All right, bye, until next time.